Is there anything you don't, I mean, do you want to talk about your situation that you just shared with me that I was totally unaware with, or do you want to not mention
It doesn't matter at this point. Like, the way things are right now, they've calmed down because his whole judicial process is pretty much complete except for an appeal, which he's now come to the place where he realizes the discrepancy between the private and public sides of law. He's much more relaxed now about things. Like because he was really married to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights because of his oath, and you know the way the military leverages that to be the very foundation for basic mind control. You know, in the military, that's like your oath is your bond, and you swear allegiance. You know, and so being Canadian, I didn't have that kind of propaganda inundation, so I was able to see things a little more objectively. So he's kind of come to a place now where he realizes the parts that he was missing. Like, he saw so much in doing what he's done. There was a few things on the foundational level that I saw that he didn't, because he had no perspective. Otherwise, it was just always what he knew.
Well, isn't that the way with all of us? It's always what we know.
Exactly.
I don't know that it can be any different than that.
Exactly. Sometimes it's a little hard to, like, these guys have been trained to be so rugged and, like, be able to put up with things beyond what most people would consider bearable, and they can go for long durations of time. So...
Well, let me say, I'm going to probably leave some of what we're just saying into the conversation, but let me introduce you.
Sure.
This is Eva Moore that I'm speaking with this afternoon. It's actually Wednesday evening for me. It's afternoon for Eva.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes. Are you in the West Mountain time zone or in the Pacific time zone?
Pacific. I'm in Seattle.
Okay, so you're physically in Seattle, so you're 3 hours different. So it's a little bit, it's 10 after 3 almost where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, this is Eva Moore, and for those of you that don't know who Eva Moore is, she is Bill Brockbrader's wife. Yes, you're the wife, not just the girlfriend.
No, we got married. Yeah, we got married.
Yeah, that's what I sort of remembered that was true, but I didn't want to misspeak.
Yeah.
And Bill Brockbrader, for those of you that don't know, is the Special Forces man who blew the whistle as Bill Wood. I believe is how he first made his appearance. But his actual name is Bill Brockbrader, and he is in prison right now. To me, he's one of the heroes, the whistleblowers that have exposed some of the inner workings of our government. Yeah. And actually of governments around the world, but especially the U.S. government. So, Eva, continue what you're saying and give us an update on how Bill is, please.
Okay. So how's Bill? He's doing well. I think he's doing better now than he has ever done in his life since he enlisted in '92. Basically, I mean, it's quite a convoluted tale. It's quite interesting. And what I'm surmising is there's probably a lot more people out there that could relate. And much like Bill, he didn't really understand what was at play. He just knew what he experienced, and he knew what his internal guidance system told him. And he had multiple paradigm shifts that allowed him to take a stand against the status quo, you know, much to the pressure of military chain of command and also his Mormon upbringing. So he was quite inundated with a lot of belief structures that really were to serve for chain of command training from a young age and to keep secrecy and to allow for his security clearance as he got older. And so now, you know, I think for the last 15 years, since 1998, in 1997, he diverted a Tomahawk missile, a double strike missile, into Hillside, which created an international political event. And at the time, in 97 in Afghanistan, the United States wasn't officially at war, so they couldn't court-martial him for, you know, what he had done. They had to come up with something else. And because they weren't legally at war, it wasn't an open war. So it would be against international law if they came out and said, oh, well, he created an international political event and now he's being court-martialed for that. Well, they couldn't.
Almost everything the United States military and government is involved with overseas is against international law.
Yes.
They are committing widespread crimes against humanity, and it's time the people of the world stop hiding, especially Americans, stop putting their head in the sand and believing that's not true. I mean, our government is a criminal enterprise.
You know, it does my heart good to hear people say that with such conviction, and, you know, there's a resonance of truth frequency that comes forward when people speak that, and it's sometimes not happy to hear, and that's kind of been, you know, my experience this year is I'm a pretty easygoing person, and I've been kind of given the more dense topic to, like, more heavy, particle heavy, you know, stuff to talk about. And sometimes I wish it was more like, you know, talking about Palladians and, like, fun stuff, but it's just not my path. So I have to do this. And so, okay, I committed and here I am. And
we're here to change the world. You and I and Bill
yeah.
and a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah. And I really want to thank you, Ron, because I've been watching you over the last year, and your heart really resonates with mine. And I think one of the most beautiful things that you embody is showing how an individual can step up and really make a difference in this world. And that's really what it takes, is all of us finding our purpose and not being afraid or not holding back and, like, letting ourselves go forward. And I really love, and that's why I'm very grateful to be speaking with you and tell you how grateful I am for all of your work. And just watching you so transparently go through your learning curves and sharing them in real time. And it's so empowering. I think people underestimate how empowering it is to share transparently without, like, feeling shame or guilt, and just being open. It helps so much. Create space for new conversations and for learning potential and growth of consciousness. And so I really value you, and I'm very grateful for everything. And thank you for your time today.
Well, you're very welcome. And you are one of the champions also. You're calling for action, feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can demonstrate, and I don't know that we'll ever get the level of demonstrations in the first world, not anywhere. Well, maybe in Europe some. But in the United States and Canada, people are still too darn comfortable to get out and go in mass, where they have these huge, filling the whole streets for blocks and blocks and blocks, like they do in Egypt and actually in Spain and some of the other countries too. They've done this, and in Latin America.
Haiti, and all of this countries that have come together, the people have come together to rid themselves of the banking structure of the IMF and the International Monetary Fund and the World Banks. And I think this is really, you know, I'm a Canadian, so I have a totally different perspective than probably how most Americans grew up. And what I see right now is, just like the Americans are fed disinformation through mainstream TV, a lot of other countries are fed misinformation about, everyday Americans. And so, what I feel is so, honoring about this year is that I've gotten to see the real strength and beauty of the American people's hearts. And a lot of what's going on right now, I truly feel is a combination of two gameplays. One is to break the American people's hearts. It started with Kennedy. But I think the other gameplay that's going on is that the banks are setting up the government as, to take the fall, and then that trickles down through the judicial system, through the police, structures. It's all a system structure issue rather than the people who fill those, peg slots. It's not the people, it's the system from the very top holding a gun to everyone's head in all the systems on the way down. And I think right now what I am sensing, and I think this is why a lot of North Americans aren't necessarily motivated to maybe take action, is because we would be inspired from a different place than, say, potentially a third world country. We're usually motivated out of love, for the most part. And see, I'm starting to see that potentially the American government is kind of in a rock and a hard place because of the Federal Reserve. And because the Federal Reserve is really the one been calling the shots, through the bigger conglomerates, the corporations that have, now unified, and they've pretty much outmuscled the American government. They have more control through the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve, not being a government entity, controls what the government gets financially. And so they really are the ones.
Well, they have up until we're on the verge of a huge shift in that reality. Huge shift. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And see, I actually have a lot of compassion right now for the federal and the government system, the people in the systems.
Exactly.
And I almost see it like, the way things are going right now, it's almost as if the administration didn't know how to wake up the people fast enough, or didn't trust that the message would get out faster. So they're almost doing this like bully tough love thing, trying to put compression on the people of an external force, and I liken this to like a cocoon. It's like when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, they get the chrysalis, constricts around, and there's some kind of same thing in the womb. When a baby is developing, the uterus actually has constriction, and it creates an electrical pulse there's something to that constriction force, that creates the capacity for intrinsic growth. And I think what potentially could motivate people to feel better about taking some kind of action, and it doesn't have to be protest. It can be different for every person, but as long as every person is fulfilling their path and not afraid to fulfill their path, that's the most important. But I think what happened is, it's almost like for so long, there's been this system of private law, private banking, private, and I get the feeling like, these 13 families were given the honor of tending to the herd of humanity, and, with the tool sets that they had, they set up a system to kind of, divide and conquer. And you can look at that as a negative way, but you can also look at it as a positive, like, we have to keep all these precious human babies alive, and we have to make sure they all grow consciously. And so to make sure, we'll just divide these sections up. You take that section, you take that section, you take that section. And I don't know about you, Ron, but this year, I've been working my butt off, and I haven't had a lot of time for personal development, and that's really where I've had to learn new patterns, is to be in this kind of level of arena where you're trying to make a difference. It's easy to get caught up in always being in service to others, and you can drag yourself down because you don't take care, because you're always give, learn. And, what I think has happened is, with the inundation of technology and the communication that has, expanded all over the planet, we're now exceeding the consciousness of even the AI technology, let alone the old archaic systems that have been in place forever. I mean, we're exceeding it, and it's almost like I see it like when you turn 20 years old, it's like your parents, they have had all this control over you. They've shaped you. They've molded you. They put pressure on you, boundary sets, loving boundaries. And it's like time for humanity to say thank you for all of these boundaries. Thank you for all of these structures. Almost like you would say to the ego, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but no thank you. I'll move on from here. And that's what I think, that's really the call to action, is to say there's a whole clean slate out there of this world. And all of these old paradigms and all of these old ways of systems is no longer, it's not going to cut it. So we have an opportunity to rise instead of, feeling pressured to be angry like a teenager and rebel. It's more a rising a rise. We have an opportunity to rise and fulfill a clean slate and really bring our hearts to the table and co-create a new way of being. And the way the gameplay seems to be playing out right now, and correct me if I'm wrong or tell me if you see anything different or if I'm missing anything, but it seems like the banks are now holding the governments hostage, you know, and it's almost like this struggle, and then all of these smaller factions are kind of like the little fish that swim around with the sharks, trying to take the morsels that fall off the big chunks of the sharks playing, you know? And I think the thing is, my heart says is that we have an opportunity with a clean slate to maybe even surpass the banking structure. And maybe
what's happening.
Yeah, maybe what's holding us back from, you know, ascension or whatever is the distraction of externalizing value into a piece of paper. And maybe if we were able to really pull all that energy back and understand the interactions such as this, where we stay present and share and support and love and nurture, is really the true values of interaction. And, you know, I'm just really excited because, yes, there's probably going to be some bumps, and who knows, you know, what last pegs of the Jenga game are coming out and what that will do to the structures of things right now and what other forces are at work. But we really have an opportunity to come together, and I think that's the most important thing, is to come together and rise to the occasion rather than out of anger. I think that's the thing that I would guess most Americans and North Americans they're not interested in anger. They want to do stuff out of inspiration and purpose rather than rebelliousness and anger. Would you agree?
I'm mixed on that, because when a person wakes up and realizes you've been lied to your whole life, and almost nothing is what you were told it was, almost everything has been perverted, the first response and the proper response is actually to be angry.
Yes.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a developmental step. And what's happened in the United States and in the Western world is we've been taught to repress that instead of expressing it. Yes. And that causes all sorts of diseases beyond the fact that they're poisoning our food, our water, and everything else. And we repress emotions, and repressed emotion has to be able to move.
Yes,
it's not meant to be stuck somewhere in tissue. And if we don't let the emotion move, if we don't express it in a healthy way, I mean, anger can be expressed as just a release of energy, telling the truth. I released rage at God at one point that. I mean, I'll bet you could hear my voice a mile away, but I hurt no one.
Right. I mean, but you could feel the energy move. You could feel the intention of what, it's almost like a mama bear. That's the analogy that really resonates with me right now. It's like that internal protective, but not out of wanting to hurt anyone, but it's like a healthy boundary. It's like, woof. And it's like you can feel the energy go up around you. Like you wrote something on your wall the other day, and I was just like, yeah, that's it, you know? And I loved it. That's.
Have you been following any of the stuff that I've been talking about, the Swiss Indo? Because I've been researching this Mr. Sino guy and some of the stuff in Indonesia, and every day it seems like I come across new awarenesses. And that's one of the most exciting developments that I've heard about in a long. Well, the OPPT was interesting. But the Swiss Indo is taking the OPPT stuff to another level. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with any of that that's transitioning in our world?
A little bit. What's been hard for me is that I have been living in my car for the last 4 months and periodically staying with people, which has been lovely. It's like a soul family travel, you know. It's a little bit of time here with this, you know, it's nice. It's actually very nice. However, I haven't necessarily had the access that I would like or the opportunity I've liked to, hunker in and really start to digest new information and track it and follow it and like into it and, ride those waves of consciousness that are unfolding right now so fast. And I like Bill's analogy, which is, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's like, it's like so much, right? It's intense. So a little bit, but I would love to hear what you're seeing right now, because I'm aware that there has been, a proposition to use the OPPT CVAX and to blend with Swiss Indo. What's your feelings right now around all of this? And is it based out of integrity? Do you think that this is,
Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody shared with me I forget which day it is so often.
I know.
Just, my sleep patterns and everything are so messed up. I think it was today that I got that a lady that's one of my Facebook friends from Indonesia sent me this prophecy about Indonesia, and I posted it on my Facebook page. I think it was this morning. I'm pretty sure. And it was really, really interesting that this was predicted. I mean, she posted it actually over 2 years ago.
Wow. Before
I knew anything about Mr. Sino or Swiss Indo or OPPT or any of that stuff. She posted it in August 2011. But it was this prophecy that Indonesia, being the center of the earth basically, was going to play a tremendous role in liberating humanity. I can't remember the exact words of the prophecy, but it was fascinating in light of what I'm now discovering over the past, I don't know, couple of months maybe or so. It's not been too long that I've been looking at this. But Mr. Sino, from the information that I'm getting, he's probably the richest man in the world as far as controlling gold reserves. And he's even Neil Keenan said he's M1, and Benjamin Fulford has hinted, but he hasn't named Mr. Sino yet. But there's stuff coming out that he's actually ready to refinance the military, the police, and repurpose them to stop fighting with each other and start fixing the problems of the world. And a total repurposing even of the banks and all of our institutions and structures away from the negative, destructive aspect into a creative, positive aspect. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, the more I'm learning, the more I resonate with what I understand is going on. It's exciting. It really is.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately my heart would like to see us all be able to have some kind of moment where there's a clear break from the old system. And then intuitively, my heart would love to see some kind of release of the patents on all of these technologies that could very easily help transcend humanity into more security, so that all of the things that have previously motivated us to do things externally in the world are no longer the driving forces. If we all have security, if we all have the opportunity to be healthy, then our whole outlook on the world changes. And this is why I say it would be really great if eventually we could get past a monetary system where we have, like, I love, what's his name? Alex Collier? He always says that,
Collier,
I always say his name wrong. He always says, I think this is the only planet left that we have, that we're born onto, and then we have to pay to be on.
Live on the planet we were born on. That's what his, I think they're not Pleiadians, they're Arcturians or Andromedans. I can't remember.
Andromedans. Yeah, but regardless, I think that really resonates in my heart, and it could be that every time we make, the butterfly effect, every time we make a small choice to exchange with paper instead of with energy flow, we could be shortening our lives. You know, it could be as simple as that every time we externalize our actual power into something like paper. And the way that I came to this thought process is, you know how in the private side of law, it all comes down to the trust?
Right.
Okay. So a lot of times when we look at what's gone on with humanity, or when I look at it, I see that the inner child is really, the inner child and then the next generations are really the vulnerable aspects that get kind of twisted or, yes, have been targeted and manipulated and corrupted, yes. And so why it's so important to go back and do that inner child healing work or protect the next upcoming generation is because that's where the real magic happens between, and what happens is the trust of the world gets broken when the inner child gets damaged. And so it's almost like they break the inner child trust of the world and the power to co-create and live in the world, and they externalize it onto a piece of paper and monetize it, and it becomes a trust. And it's like, wow, that's really sneaky, and I don't like that.
Did you watch my video from today?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Not yet?
Did you talk about that?
About some of these things. That's why I'm smiling.
Yay! Well, good. See, and this is it. I think this is why it's so important for people like you and I who are just people that, you know, are being called by our hearts to not be afraid and just share and share and share and document. Like, I think one day your whole channel will become like a documentary series where future generations will go back to watch and be like, wow, all that stuff happened so fast. That's so cool.
You think they'll leave the one on where I was a little bit inebriated?
You know which one I like the most is when the sheriffs came to your door.
Oh, yeah, I didn't care. I mean, I don't know about the video, but I didn't care for the experience.
But you know what? I love that you shared it so transparently because I can relate. I mean, I can relate because I've been dealing with, you know, federal marshals and the judicial system all year. And I'm a Canadian, so I don't even understand all the different facets of law here is a little bit different than Canadian law. And it's almost like things have been compartmentalized more here. So where in Canada it would all be in one location for the most part, it's like, you have to go to that building to see the county clerk, and like it's the counties and all these things get things kind of, it's like, whoa, where am I? So it's been a huge learning curve, but I could totally relate, and I think that's why it meant so much to me, is because to see somebody else standing in their power, you know, very respectfully and carefully, you know, inching into, you know, questioning. Well, you know, hold a minute. And you held it so lovely, and I just wanted to say thank you for that because it meant so much to me.
Thank you. Yeah. The U.S. Marshals, when they came here, they were much nicer than the Brevard County Sheriff deputy that arrived at my front door. I mean, I really felt good. I could have hugged both of the U.S. Marshals that came to my house. Aww. I mean, really, they were gentlemen.
Yeah.
The Brevard County Sheriff was a thug. He was an absolute thug. But he did stop his car on the way to the jail and loosen the handcuffs. I gotta give credit where credit is due. He was compassionate enough when I said, this is cutting into my arm, to my wrist. He stopped, he pulled the car over, got out and loosened the handcuffs a little bit. So at least he had that much compassion, but.
Well, see, and this is what really calls me to you, is that you have stood, and I almost feel like so much happened so fast for me in the last year. I moved from Idaho to Seattle, Washington, and in between there was a lot of instability. So, you know, I've been making mental notes of things that are going on in as best as I could with limited access. And this is why, you know, who you've been being means so much to me, is because in a lot of ways I could relate. I just wasn't able to document it as lovely as you have, and it really means a lot to me.
Well, thank you. Obviously, it means something to other people too, because do have a worldwide audience that still blows my mind to this day.
Yay!
And it seemed to, it almost happened spontaneously from the very beginning. Wow, I just had a power failure here, a power flash. Uh-oh.
Oh, there.
Well, I lost the internet connection.
Yay.
I went back and I unplugged the modem.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back on.
Yay.
Although the lights went out. Well, that's at least one light overhead.
I like that you always have a candle burning. I like that.
Well, I didn't start out that way. That was I used to burn the candles in my meditation room, and actually, I haven't burned a candle in my meditation room now for over a year because I burned them right here.
I like
and
that.
I actually brought the globe here a few days ago, which has been in my meditation room since I moved here, really.
I like that.
But anyway, I appreciate being able to have the conversation with you. I try to limit the conversations that I have to half an hour or a little bit more. Aristo went quite a bit over on one of his.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, maybe we can do this again sometime. I appreciate you having the conversation with me and giving us a little bit of an update about Bill and about your feelings.
Well, I would actually like to give everyone a little bit more about Bill. I get distracted, so I apologize. Bill right now is in Seattle SEATAC, which is a federal detention center. It is not actually a prison. He's scheduled to be there till September 2014. However, with good behavior and all that stuff, I don't know how that works out. They're still calculating it. And SeaTac prison is an interesting detention center. It actually doesn't allow the inmates to have any sunlight. They're not allowed to go outside.
Wow.
Yes, and so it's actually it's concerning for me very much, understanding that my background is preventative health, and I know I've done a lot of research, or the company that I've worked for previously did a lot of research in vitamin D3 and the dosing potentially, and the fact that most North Americans don't get enough vitamin D3. So it's a very important issue to me. I would love for people to write him. I think it's very important as I get more grounded and start to do more interviews. I think it's important for the system, not necessarily the people, but the system to know that there are people out there that are watching and that have, Bill in their hearts, and will take the time to write a postcard even to him. International mail or mail from all over the country really makes an impact on the quality of care that's taken. And as I speak out more, that's very, very important. So if I could ask your audience, if you don't mind, to please take the time to write to him, I will give you the details on how people can do that. And
yes, please put your address in the message thing, and I will post that in the link.
Great. Yeah, Bill, actually, I'll tell you this. In the last couple of years, we've heard a lot about the soldiers coming back and committing suicide and the high rates of emotional destabilization that happens with post-traumatic stress. I myself have gone through post-traumatic stress, so I understand it, and I'm not afraid of it. And I want people to know that they can get through it. There are many healing modalities out there that are very cost-effective: emotional freedom technique, body talk. There's lots of things out there that people can start to investigate and utilize in combination with other facets. And I think this is Bill's number one message right now, is he wants everybody to know that this was looming for the last 14 years. If you can imagine Bradley Manning creating a political event, 15 years ago and not having social media. Well, when I look at Bill, after I've learned everything that I've learned, it's almost like he put all his truth in a backpack, and he's been just like in a marathon for the last 15 years to get to this time where there was enough awareness through the internet that he could bring this to the table. And I really respect that, because that's a lot of time that he's put in holding the space for consciousness so that he can do this. And he really feels so much better now that he's taken action. I think the lack of action is what really got to him and made him feel disempowered. And he said that he was like a lot of people, where he was trying to escape with drugs and alcohol. He was trying to suppress it with antidepressants, and nothing would work no matter what he did. And once he took action and stood in his path, he says that it's all like night and day, and there's nothing they can do to him now. And I think the fact that he's seen me stand by him with all the inundation of the COINTELPRO, and he's been gang stalked for years. Don't doubt that. He's been gang stalked. And the fact that I stuck through him this year, I think he now has a peace in his heart that he did the right thing, and there's nothing. He's free. He's internally free, and there's nothing they can do to him that will ever make him feel like this was a bad move, because it's not. And there's so much more to his story in the background, but, really.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have friends that are targeted individuals, and so he was,
yeah,
what he went through, but he had more training to endure than some of the other people.
Exactly. They kind of created their worst nightmare, because in SEAL training, that's the whole purpose of Hell Week, is to break the ego down and reform it to understand that the human body has so much more potential than what we've, on the most part, been taught, and to break down those paradigms of boundary of limitation. And once they do that's what the whole purpose of Hell Week is as to create somebody who can go far beyond most people's limitations. And that's what he's done. And I mean, he's like a dog with a bone. I mean, he is on me right now about this quantitative lending, and the fact that Bernanke, is not going to ease up on the pedal. He's like, yeah, he knows. His dream is that humanity will actually have the capacity right now to leap past the banking system, that we don't even need an interim, that we can just, and maybe that is or isn't feasible for people. And he's a different creature because of his background and what he knows, but his heart really wants to see humanity get past to really see how far up the system has been corrupted, because it's all the way up to the top, to the World Health Organization.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, everything.
Every institutional level of our society has been impacted and corrupted.
Yeah, and I think there are so many beautiful people on this planet right now that have big hearts and the capacity to transform past these limitations and create something way new. And that's really what I think I see in your eyes when you smile, Ron, is, your heart is just, it's in it for that. And I really love you, and I'm so grateful for everything, and I'm grateful for your time, and thank you.
You're very welcome, Eva, and please convey to Bill when you see him again on Friday, I guess, that I have great respect for him. I appreciate what he's done for all of us, and not just Bill, but all of the people that are courageous enough to tell what they know about the inside workings of whatever department of government they were involved in, whether it's military or finance or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really important for people to be aware of the world that we live in, because until we own where we are, we can't get to where we're going. We can't get there from there. We can only get there from where we are. We have to own it.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's been my perspective for a long time.
No, and I think that when you can face the ugliness of maybe what's going on in these systems, in the closed loop feedback, and that's why there's so much secrecy, and that's why, that's why sexual abuse is so powerful, because what it does is it dissociates people from their conscious brain and puts them into subconscious wide open, so they're very easily influenced. So you shush, don't talk about it. Okay, I won't talk about it, and it's that kind of weird dissociative impact on the brain. So if we can get past the shame and the guilt and start sharing openly, then in quantum physics, there's like this event horizon. It's the bubble of consciousness. If we start sharing without the guilt and shame, then that event horizon starts to dissipate and becomes wave. It becomes emotion. There's not that hard, crusty shell around the truth. And then through particle physics, the nature of the observer starts to change what's observed. And so if we can see it with compassion and understand it's the systems that have held, you know, and they've been passed down through generation after generation, and their parents did it to them, and their parents did it to them, and their parents did it to them. It's like, you know, the DNA starts to become impacted. And so we have to have compassion and also that protective mother, you know, mama bear, and also like, you know, conditional love. Sometimes there's such thing as tough love, and it's like, you know, no, thank you, but no, thank you. And a boundary needs to be made against these things.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And this is a topic, I mean, another one, because I've been doing emotional healing workshops since 1994 at all levels of first participant, then assistant, then co-facilitator.
Yay.
And I mean, I've been doing this, and I've watched people break through, and I would say over half of the people have some form of abuse. Much of it sexual, not all of it is sexual, but we've all been spiritually abused, and we've all been emotionally abused as human beings. And just being able to talk about it is a tremendous breakthrough. Anyway, I don't want to make
too long. Yeah.
I don't want to make them too long, so we'll have to plan to do another one at some point in the near future. But I do appreciate finally that we made the connection after missing on Sunday and then again yesterday. But we finally connected, and I thank you for that, Eva. And please do include the contact information for Bill, and I will include that in the book.
Thank you. That means so much to him. Like, it's almost like Christmas when he gets a letter and he can feel and read the energy that comes off the paper. It's so, it gets, you know, it's good for his heart. So thank you.
Let him know that there are things happening that most people are not aware of that's going to change everything. And when it starts, I have a feeling it's going to be like an avalanche. It's going to start out with one boulder letting loose, but it's going to take out a whole lot in its path and sweep a whole lot of the old stuff away.
The interesting thing is he can see things. I'm not at that level yet, but he can go to places where he can access in real time. And he's not always the best at sharing it with me for whatever reason. He has a very, like, he has a very good feeling about right now, and he knows that it's happening. He's actually, you know, really working on helping facilitate a miracle, and not just from a cheesy content, and not out of desperation, but actually out of that's where he likes to play. So we'll see what he's doing.
He's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of people around the world that are in that same place. So
I know. I'm not there yet. I'm learning. So
well, we're all where we are, and it's all perfect.
Right.
I mean, we could just keep going on and on.
Thank you, Ron.
You know, thank you, Eva.
Okay.
Really appreciate it. And namaste.
Yes, thank you. Namaste.
Lakesh.
Lots of love.
Okay. Bye-bye, and we'll talk again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Ron.
Bye-bye.